Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimate Siddha Swarupananda Paramahamsa Namine. How'd it go? Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimate Siddha Swarupananda Paramahamsa Namine. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimate Siddha Swarupananda Paramahamsa Namine. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimate Siddha Swarupananda Paramahamsa Namine. Raja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudeva Bhakta Vrinda Raja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudeva Bhakta Vrinda Raja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudeva Bhakta Vrinda Raja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudeva Bhakta Vrinda. Hari Bol Nitai Gaur, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Hari Bol Nitai Gaur, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Hari Bol Nitai Gaur, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Hari Bol Nitai Gaur, Nitai Tago, Haribo, 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 Tago, Tago, Haribo,
So just in case you guys don't sort of know what's going on, who are the strange guys up the front, Radhakrishna Das invited us down while he's away on sabbatical, and so we're from Brisbane. And Ishvara's going to lead the tune now, as soon as he's finished his phone call to his mum in Manila. Hello, Mum. I'm feeling nervous, man. I'm on the spotlight.
How you go?
Bye.
Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama,
Krishnadas asked me to talk, but I'd rather chant. Because it's not so demanding. Well, what do you reckon? Chant or talk? What was that? I'm getting mixed messages.
Let's have a show of hands.
A show of hands. Chant? Talk. Oh, bloody. Okay. See you later. It's 50-50, so Radha Krishnadas wins. He wins, and so he should. So he should. So, please accept my respects, everybody. Thank you very much for coming along and chanting with us. It's nice to be invited down to the Gold Coast. You know, a lot of people get into yoga and meditation for different reasons. You know, some people get into it because they're kind of curious, want to see what the buzz is. That wasn't me, right? Some people get into it because, funny enough, they're desperate for money, yeah? And if you're desperate for money, you do all sorts of things. That also wasn't me. Some people get into it because they're moved philosophically. You know, they're on the treadmill of life and thinking, you know, I'm going to school, I'm getting a job, I'm working, I'm raising a family, I'm paying a house. Of what the hell for? What is, you know, so they ask the big questions in life. Why am I here? What am I doing? That definitely wasn't me. That definitely wasn't me. But by far, the majority of people come to yoga and meditation because they're feeling some stress. Yeah, they've hit a roadblock in life, whatever it is, and everybody has experienced that. And that was me. That was me. And I so-called say stumbled over yoga, but nothing really happens by accident. Yeah, things happen. So I found myself at like 21, I didn't have any tools in the kit to sort of look after the stressors that were, you know, giving me a hard time. None whatsoever, and no real advisors. You know, my parents, I couldn't go to them with these questions. They were just as lost as I was, right? At church, there was nobody, right? And, you know, I think a lot of people in this world, a lot of people, young, old, whatever, it doesn't matter, find themselves in that situation. So I'd just like to touch on some of these topics during this talk. But before I do, I'd like to pay my respects to my teacher, Jagat Guru, Siddhaswarupananda, Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda, the Panchatattva, and the Supreme Person, Shri Krishna. You know, starting tomorrow, I think it's a Queensland thing, it might be a federal thing, Australia-wide thing. It is known as Mental Health Week, right? Now, Mental Health Week, you know, if you've got a mental health condition or somebody in your group of friends or family member, you know, they have a mental health issue, then, you know, it's kind of relevant. Otherwise, it's like, yeah, okay, well, I'm sorry that you got a mental health, but, you know, like, it's not really, I don't feel it, it's not me, etc., right? And it's not as though I monitor the mental health stats. No, not at all, right? Even though a close family member has a mental health issue, right? But I do associate with people who kind of like, you know, keep me a bridge of it. And if you look at the mental health stats, not only in Queensland, not only in Australia, but worldwide, it is beyond shocking. It is apocalyptic. It is amazing. It's like blows your mind, right? Apparently, you know, over the last 25 years, now 25 years if you're 25 seems a long time, but if you're a bit older, it's just like, okay, 25 years. The diagnoses of medical depression has risen 70%. And you think depression. Depression is not just wake up in the morning, I don't feel so good, and put the doona over, ring up the boss, call a sickie. No, it's a pretty serious, ongoing sort of condition, yeah? It's pretty serious, and that's risen 25%. And of course, all the different demographics, you know, kids and adults and older people are experiencing stuff, right? They're experiencing stuff, and children, you know, and young, you know, teenagers, they're experiencing it a lot, right? And there are some in the audience this evening, right? Especially over the last 12 or 13 years since the dawn of smartphones, right? They've been, you know, seriously harassed online. They've faced a lot of aggression online, a lot of sexual sort of content, and the sexualization of children, especially young girls, is just like, you know, kind of like it's a worrying trend to use very polite language, right? And it's sort of interesting. Just recently, a friend of mine was telling me about an expose that was written in the Wall Street Journal, famous, you know, journal in America, yeah. And the journalist had come by some leaked documents from Facebook. Apparently, Facebook have known for years that their app, Instagram, right, has been feeding into the insecurities, right, and the misery of especially young teenage women, right? And I know it's a popular app, and I'm not here to upset people, but, you know, the way it goes is you get some beautiful woman, you know, with a standard sort of hourglass figure, and she's an influencer, right? She has influence, and she has influence over young women, right? And I'm not saying that she's really kind of going out of her way to do this, but it happens, right? So, you know, and you want to be like her. You're 14 or something like that. You're aware of your body now and your sexuality and stuff, and you want to be like her because she looks cool, right? So if you want to be like her, you got to follow her. If you want to follow her, you got to do her exercises. You want to do the exercise, you got to eat her diet, etc., etc. And often it doesn't work, you know. And the girl who's sort of a bit, you know, not quite hourglass, but very healthy, she looks at herself in the mirror and thinks, wow, I'm not going to fit in. This is pretty unhappy. And they do all sorts of things. Facegram of Known, not Facegram. That's not a bad name though, is it? I got dibs on that. Yeah. But anyhow, they've known that, you know, it pushes girls to, you know, self-harm, and it pushes them to, you know, do all sorts of stuff, right? Especially, you know, eating disorders. So, you know, and young guys are sort of not immune from this sort of stuff either. You get a little bit older and you get out in the workforce, right? You've got to find a job. That's not so easy, right? You've got to find something that you want to do, right? You get a job. Actually doing the job is not so difficult. It's holding the thing down. You know, dealing with all the office politics and all of that sort of stuff. That's where the hard thing is, you know. Yeah, you've got to turn up every day and you've got to have some discipline, right? But the office politics really digs with people's minds big time. And those jobs, they don't pay very much. And man, I've got lots of things I'd like to buy, right? So they're dealing with office politics and that sort of thing. They're dealing with, you know, a lot of people deal with financial crisis, right? In Australia, they're living on credit big time. Big time. During the COVID thing in America, you know, a huge percentage of people couldn't even access $400. You know, that's how dependent they were on credit cards and things like that, right? And it even affects people on so-called healthy incomes, right? People are on $150,000, $200,000 a year, right? Because, you know, when you've got a healthy income, then your lifestyle sort of rises to meet the income. And, you know, the toys are expensive, and my desires are infinite, and my income is finite, and so, yeah, I'm on the dole too. Not the dole, but the credit card, all right? And then you've got all the relationship breaks-ups, you know, and all that heart-wrenching stuff. I mean, that's terrible. I really feel for people who've gone through that. I went through it once, and I got into yoga. Pretty much. It wasn't the only reason, but it was big time, yeah. And so what do people do when they don't, you know, like I was when I was 21? What do you do when you're faced with all this stuff and you don't have the equipment, you don't have the experience, you don't have the tools to be able to sort of pick yourself up and meet this adversity? Well, you reach for your phone, or you reach for a joint, or, you know, you just curl up in bed and you just don't go and see anybody, yeah? And so addictive behaviours kind of creep into things. Now, all that stuff I just mentioned is hurtful, it's painful, it's real. And I totally understand it. I'm sure everybody here, all right, if you're experiencing it, don't worry, you haven't been singled out for it. Everybody is experiencing it, or has, or will. Sorry, right? So I don't want to understate the pain there, but I do want to say this, right? The skills that are required to sort of overcome, to handle, to deal with those problems, they're not extraordinary skills, or as a friend of mine says, they're not Jedi mind tricks, right? No, they're quite ordinary skills. Quite ordinary skills. It's just, we've kind of veered away from them, you know what I mean? They're like muscles, right? If you don't exercise, you know, the muscle gets weak, it gets flaccid, it loses its strength. And, you know, we're kind of brought up in pretty cushy environments, you know, and our parents kind of like, you know, hover around us. I was talking to a student of mine the other day. She's a teacher. They got this new term, motor mower parents. You know, they mow a nice path for their children, right? The kids don't learn all the stuff. You know what I mean? They don't learn all the stuff, right? So what? I've lost my... So we need to develop some skills to deal with all of this stuff, right? There's a lot of things in life that we can't control. Clearly, a lot of things we can't control, or we can't control completely. I mean, you've got the weather, you've got the moon, the stars, the various planets. They're all affecting our psychological and physical states, believe me. Ask any astrologer, yeah? They're all affecting us, right? You can't change your past. What's past is past, guys. A lot of people, you know, they mull over the past. Oh, it could have been like this, etc., etc. A big loss. You can understand them mulling over it, but not for years. And some people spend a lot of time doing that when they should actually be spending their energy, you know, and moving it from the problem to the solution. Yeah, you can learn from your past. Once bitten, twice shy, my scenario, of course, but not to dwell in it, right? And there's something else you can't change about this world, right? This world actually is somewhat hardwired, engineered for imperfection, right? Imperfection. You know, there's an ancient Chinese philosopher. He doesn't come in our disciplic succession, our lineage of teachers, right? His name is Lao Tzu. They call him Lao Tzu in China, right? And he lived about 600 years before the birth of Christ. So like, you know, 2,600 years ago, right? And he made the point, he said that all misery and pain and suffering in this world is directly attributed to the material body. Now, when the ancients, when the sages, the sadhus, the acharyas, the mystics, the yoga masters talk about the material body, they're talking about a multi-layered body, right? That you live in and that I live in, right? And the first layer is the psychic body, the astral body, the mental body, you know, pretty much your mind, right? And it's kind of like the underwear, right? And then over the top of that, you've got this, arms and legs and, you know, molecules and things like that, right? So he's talking about that. And he's not making, you know, it's not a, you know, I told you so moment. No, he's trying to instruct us, just like all the masters of the past and the current, you know, the contemporary masters. They're trying to, you know, pretty much save us from, you know, misery, right? Well, let's put it this way, you know, if you're a boxer, right? Now, I know there's a boxer in the class here tonight. I know him, right? If you're going to get into a ring, right? What do you expect? You expect the other guy to come and hurt you. And you know you're going to get hurt. You're going to cop it here and there. So what do? You train up big time. You work on your cardio, right? You learn to take a punch. And when it comes, it's like, okay, you got one in, mate. You know, and here's one from me, right? So, you know, Lao Tzu is saying that, you know, if you're in the ring or the coil of this material body, the body, physical body, and the subtle physical body, the mind, then you should expect some adversity, all right? And so, you know, when it comes, it's like, yeah. You don't say, why me? You say, well, why the hell not me? Yeah, why not me? I'm in the ring. I'm in the body. You know, you got teeth, you're going to get a cavity. You got a gut ache, you got a gut, you're going to get a gut ache. You got hormones, they're going to get out of balance and you're going to suffer for it, right? So there are a few things that we can't control, and there are a few of them, right? There's just some of them, right? They're just some of them. But there are a lot of things we can control. I'm keeping my eye on the clock. And what are they, right? Well, we can control, you know, what we eat, how much we sleep, what we drink, right? We can control the amount of exercise and the sun and, you know, all of the good stuff, practice wellness, you know what I mean? That sort of thing. We can control that, and we should. We should, because it directly affects our mental states, deeply, profoundly. I mean, anybody who's into exercise will tell you that, yes, there is a serotonin high, a serotonin sweet spot. Yeah, it's really cool. And it's the best natural sort of, drug you're going to get. So we should do that, right? We should control who we hang out with. This is a big one. Who we hang out with. When I was a kid, I was formally educated at a la-di-da school, and they used to say the mark of a man, right, is the company that he or she keeps, right? And my father, who wasn't la-di-da at all, right, he used to say, and this was a common expression in the 50s and 60s when I was brought up, right, and I love it. I never hear it, unfortunately, but every opportunity I get, I repeat it to remind myself that if you sleep with the dogs, you're going to end up with fleas. All right? Who you hang out with directly affects your consciousness. Right? And then getting on to a sort of a real yogic thing. It's not really yogic, it's very practical. You've got to learn to control your senses. You've got eyes, you've got ears, you've got noses, you've got tongues, you've got genitals, and you need to exercise some discrimination. Yoga practitioners, they understand that the external affects the internal. What I do with my senses is going to affect the flavor of my internal existence, my consciousness. So they don't just hear from anybody. They don't speak nonsense, right? They don't eat garbage food. They don't have indiscriminate relations, sexual relations and things like that. Why? Are they just sort of like, party poopers? No. They want a nice, peaceful existence. Yeah? They want a peaceful, harmonious existence, right? So that they can concentrate on more important things. They don't want to just be tied up in the mind and the mental health thing and all of that stuff. They're looking for more of an internal thing. And some people in the audience, some of the younger guys probably, they're probably thinking, I hear what you say. I kind of even think it has some, validity. But, I just escaped Melbourne and I'm here on the Gold Coast for the sun, for the water, for the nightlife, right? Actually, to be quite honest with you, what I'm here for is sort of like I've got to choose my words a bit more carefully, I think. I'm thinking of a word, but, sort of like an orgy of self-indulgence, but it's not the self. It's an indulgence of the senses, fueled by alcohol and drugs, and you just sort of lose yourself in that dimension, right? Have you tried that? I have. Right? Did it work? Absolutely not. It just gave me a headache, physically and emotionally. Yeah, it just made my life so topsy-turvy that, I was lucky to stumble again over yoga, right? So there are things that we can control, and we should, right? And if you can control those things, right, then you have a unique perspective because you can control your decision-making, right? And you need to understand that everybody is here tonight, right? Everybody, right? Everyone, I should say, is here tonight because of what they've done in the past. The things you decided on and the actions that you've taken based on those decisions, sort of like you lay a railway track down for the locomotive of your life to travel over. You know what I mean? You get to it and you think, oh, how did I get here? This is how you got here, man. If you trace it back. And it's not necessarily decisions you made in this lifetime. It can be decisions that have been made in previous lifetimes. Can you turn it around? Yes. You can turn it around. But first of all, you've got to recognize that I'm on the precipice. All this sort of self-indulgent stuff is not making me very happy at all. You've got to come to some decision and then decide, though, I need to change my direction, right? Just before we sort of finish, right, talking about hanging out with the right people, right? You do need a network of friends, right? You do need some good, dependable people who aren't flea bags, right? You do need, a network of therapists. You need a good doctor, Yeah, good massage therapist, acupuncturist, whatever, you know, whatever you like to do. You need to have those because, you know, you're in the ring, you're going to get a punch. You know, you're going to need those guys, right? So you need to work on that and ask people, you know, and have all that sort of stuff. But you also need to really understand, right? And I'm just touching on matters here. If any of this stuff sort of gets you, you know, interested, right? You're welcome to approach me afterwards, but you don't know me, so, you know, it might be a bit awkward for you. But you know people, if you come regular, the crew here, and they're, you know, they're totally across all of these concepts, right? You have to understand, yes, I am in this mortal coil. I, the spiritual living being, the animating principle inside. You know, like, you think you see me, but it's not real. You know, having the children here, I remember, you know, you had hand puppets. Yeah, and a hand puppet, you know what a hand puppet is, yeah? And, you know, all the guys in the know, mum and dad and the older kids, and even probably the younger kids, know that there's an animating principle in there. You know, the kids, they don't want to think about that because it sort of spoils it, you know what I mean? And when you take the glove off, the glove just sort of just sits there. It's inanimate, right? When I take this, we call it, I've been referring to it as this mortal coil. When I take this body off, right, it is going to show its true nature. At the moment, you think it's a person because there's a person inside. There's a hand in there. There's an animating principle. But when I leave, which we call death, right, because the body gets old or it gets hit by a truck or it gets diseased or something and it becomes uninhabitable, then it is going to show its true nature, and in a day or two, you know, it's going to decompose, and you just got to, you know, you got to get rid of it. The point I'm trying to make is you have to investigate this idea of identity. And I know, you know, you come here, I don't know what Radhakrishna Das talks about, but I know that he will talk about identity because it is foundational to everything that we do, everything. You have to understand that I am a spiritual living being. If you understand that, right, then you also need a good teacher. You know, you want to learn to do anything. You want to learn to drive a car or you need a teacher. What to speak of an intangible sort of area of expertise, such as spirituality, right? You need a good teacher. You know, you guys are lucky. You have Radhakrishna Das when he's here, when he comes back, whenever it comes back in a couple of weeks, right? And you should inquire from him, you know. It is, it's an exceptional opportunity to have such a person, right? And so what does this have to do with our yoga practice here tonight, right? Because it's one thing to say, yeah, I've got to make good decisions, I've got to control my senses, I've got to, you know, hang out with the right people, I've got to do this, I've got to do that. But in order to do that, you've got to have a bit of juice, right? The whole yoga thing is about cultivating a higher taste, right? If you think you're just your body, then you're going to be trying to, because everyone, right? Everyone in this room, right, is engineered to look for happiness. Have you ever noticed that? Even the oddbods who try and get it through, you know, sadomasochistic sort of things, right? They're all looking for happiness. They're looking for happiness, right? But if you try and look through the prism of the body, then you're going to be, you know, like that person, that self-indulgent sort of person who's just binging on you know, on all that stuff, right? You're going to be disappointed, you're going to be frustrated, and it's going to cause you headaches, right? You don't trust me, you don't know me, you don't think that's right? Then ask somebody who's really, really good at it, who's perfected the art of hedonism, all right? For the older guys, they'll relate to this. Mick Jagger, right, the lead of the Rolling Stones. At the height of his power, you know, in the late 60s, 70s. I mean, he had all the fame. He still got it. You know, the fame, the looks, the women, the cars, everything. And what did he sing? I can't get any satisfaction, right? And many, many celebrities are like this, you know. And you got Russell Brand. I mean, he's not in the same category, but, you know, a famous guy. And when you hear his interviews, he'll tell you he had all that going on simultaneously and was feeling very, very sad. Right? Very sad indeed inside, right? Mental health issues, right? Where does the juice come from? Not from ourselves. This process of bhakti yoga is a descending process. We use the mantra to link to the supreme friend, the supreme teacher, the source of all the juice, right? And we try to sort of imbibe that when we chant. When we chant, you know, the living being, you and I, that animating principle, we live within the heart region. You know, the heart is different to your elbow. I mean, it's different anyhow, but it's a different part of the body, right? So when you're chanting, because we're going to start chanting very soon, right? You take it, you take it in through your ears, and it goes through the mind, or the brain, and then the mind, and you draw it into your heart, right? And it nourishes the heart, and it strengthens the living being. It makes her happy. It gives her a higher taste. You know, you have this high taste, and all the other stuff, the sex, drugs, the rock and roll, all of that stuff, yeah, it's still there. I remember being attracted to that. I'm still a bit attracted to it. Right? I'm talking about me now. I'm actually attracted to it. You know, I like it. But I know it'll interfere with this other thing that I got going on, and it's much stronger, and it's much sweeter, and it's much smarter. So, you know, I just kind of let it go, right? I let it go. I think I've spoken enough. Thank you for listening. Namaste, everybody. Thank you. So I'm going to do a tune that was inspired by a good friend of mine, and I have to make the acknowledgement because that good friend's best friend is in the room tonight. I'll be sec, guys. Just got to check something out on my instrument here. That's it. Haribo, Nitago, Nitago, Haribo. Haribo, Nitago, Nitago, Haribo. Haribo, Nitaigo, Nitaigo, Haribo. Haribo, Nitaigo, Nitaigo, Haribo. Haribo, Nitaigo. Haribol. Haribol. Krishna. The lady's name was Yogananda, who wrote that song. I don't know how well this tune's going to work, so we'll see how we go. Sounds pretty good, mate. He's just toning it down, you know. Pretty nice leads. You can clap. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
How'd it go?
Pretty good, Garuda, for the first time. You never even practiced it, man. You never rehearsed anything. So we're going to finish off this evening with Ishvara. So it'll take us to 7 o'clock, and then there's a dinner.
You guys want to stand up or just sit down? It's up to you guys.
Are they allowed to dance and stuff? I don't know. Yes. So there's no excuses, guys. You know, put those chairs away. You know, stack them up. Get up. We're getting up. please invite us once more. For some time, before we leave our bodies. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. I know it was far out. We enjoyed it, and I'm sure you did. Namaste. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, yeah, so there is dinner. Don't go anywhere.
Well, namaste everybody. So again, huge thank you to Jaya Dharma, Nets, Wayne, Jay, Ishvaradas, Garuda, Marley, huge effort. So these guys are all volunteers. While they're volunteering, there's some volunteers in the kitchen making you an absolutely amazing meal. This wonderful centre, world class, I can't see any other centres anywhere that's better than this, was also basically built by volunteers. So we need volunteers. And there's a young lady out there on the counter, Caroline, who's got a little list, and she's going to take down names. So if anybody is keen to jump in and help, it would be hugely appreciated. You would have so much fun. If you're into cooking, you'll end up in a cooking team in the kitchen and you will have a blast. You will learn to cook some amazing little dishes. If you're cleaning, come and help clean up. Anything, simple, hard, we'd really appreciate any effort. So Caroline out on the front desk and she'll take your name, your details down. And this coming Saturday from 7 o'clock through to 9 o'clock, Sammy up here against the pole is going to be running a yoga soundscape. So it's going to be yoga class, yoga nidra, and it's going to go into yoga kirtan. Absolutely amazing experience. $20, 7 o'clock through till 9 o'clock. You'll have a great time, well looked after by Sammy. So thank you very much. Enjoy your meal. Hari Bol. And a big hello to Radhakrishna Das and Madhya Lila Dasi who are probably watching in WA. Hari Bol.